Good evening, everyone. This week's parsha is Parshas Korach, Tavshin Pei Hey. Now, we're going to start with a comment from the Alshich, the commentary of the Alshich, who asks a very interesting question, and the answer he gives is a very fundamental and important understanding of what happened in this week's parsha. So, we have in this week's parsha Korach's rebellion. Korach challenges Moshe. Moshe appointed his brother. Hashem told Moshe to appoint Aaron to be the Kohen Gadol. Korach challenges that. He's also joined by men named Dasan and Aviram from the tribe of Ruvain. He's joined by 250 other people, great men, that come to challenge this idea that Moshe appointed Aaron. That they challenged the idea. The Moshe says he appointed Aaron by the command of Hashem, which is what we know is true. And Korach and his following were challenging that. Now, after eventually Moshe says to Korach and to his followers that you should come to the Mishkan, everybody holding a fire pan, everybody ready to offer the Torah. It'll be offered, and then Hashem will choose who is meant to be the Kohen Gadol or not. We also know that what happened is that Moshe tried speaking to Korach, he tried speaking to Dasan and Aviram, and came the day that they were going to come to the next day. They were coming to the Mishkan, to the tabernacle, to bring the Torah. The Jewish people gathered around to see, and Moshe has to first convince Hashem not to destroy the Jewish people. And then Moshe makes the following declaration. This is in Pasuk, Perek Tez Zayin, chapter 16, Pasuk Chav Ches, verse 28. Vayomer Moshe, and Moshe said, B'zois teid'un ki Hashem shlachani, through this you will know that Hashem has sent me. La'aseis kol ha'masim ha'ele, to do all these things, ki lo milibi, I did not do it on my own. Im kamois kol ha'adam mimusun el of kudas kol ha'adam yipokar alayhem, if these men die like everybody else dies, and lo Hashem shlachani, then Hashem hasn't sent me. The imbriya yivra Hashem ufas adam es pia balo isam es kol asher lahem. But if Hashem will make a creation, and the land shall open its mouth and swallow them and all that is theirs, they shall go down to the grave alive. Vidatem kinatsu hanashim ba'elas Hashem, you shall know that these men have angered Hashem. So Moshe Rabbeinu, and what happened after that? As once Moshe Rabbeinu finished, the earth opened up and swallowed Korach and his whole following. Okay, now, so Moshe makes an announcement about what's going to happen, and he says, what's going to happen is going to prove to you that Hashem sent me. I didn't make this all up on my own. And Moshe says, if these people basically continue living life and just die like anybody else, then Hashem hasn't sent me. But if this creation happens, that the earth, Hashem will create, that the earth will open its mouth, the mouth will swallow them up, then you know that these people have angered Hashem, and you know that I did not do this on my own. Hashem has sent me. So the Alshich asks, this is really very strange on Moshe Rabbeinu's part. This is Moshe Rabbeinu's initiative. This is his idea. He's saying, if Hashem does this, it's not like Hashem said, go say this. Moshe is the one who said, if this is what happens, then that proves I'm right, and they were wrong. So what did Moshe Rabbeinu decide to do? Basically, he decided to kill them in a very unusual way, but that's what he decided. It was his decision to say, what's going to prove me being right is the fact that these people are going to die. They're going to die in an unusual way, but they're going to die. And if that happens, that's the proof that I was right. So the Alshich asks, this is very unlike Moshe. Moshe was always a merciful leader. That Moshe always davened when the Jewish people sinned. And here you have, instead of trying to find mercy for them in some way, be merciful for them in some way, on the contrary, he actually is the one who says that they should die. A miracle should happen and they should die. And he cites a verse from Tanakh that Einish tzaddik lo tov, a punishment to a tzaddik is no good. A tzaddik never wants to be a cause for a punishment. So the Alshich says, why did Moshe Rabbeinu have to go to such an extreme? Moshe Rabbeinu is a merciful leader. He always tried to bring mercy upon the Jewish people. What happened now that he basically became so aggressive? What has to happen to Korach and his people? It just doesn't see. It's not what Moshe Rabbeinu should be. It's not what Moshe Rabbeinu typically is. So what happened here? That's the Alshich's question. And the Alshich answers in the following way: the Moshe Rabbeinu, when he starts and he says, "Through this you will know that Hashem has sent me," Moshe Rabbeinu is trying to now lay out first to the Jewish people, why is he doing this? And the understanding of what he was trying to do, says the Alshich, can be explained with the following parable. Chas v'shalom, a person gets something called gangrene. You know what gangrene is? Gangrene can start in a person's extremities, like in their toes. And if you see like the toe has turned, I think, black, a doctor can see that this is gangrene. This is a sickness in the body that now can start from the toes and continue up and eventually go to the heart and kill someone. There's such a thing now, yes. Yes, it's called gangrene.
Gangrene.
Yeah. And what happens when that sets in, chas v'shalom? What do you got to do? You have to amputate.
Yeah.
You have to amputate. You have to amputate the toe. And if it keeps going or it got further than the toe, it can go up to the knee, you got to cut off the leg. And all this is done because otherwise the person is going to die. Now, when a doctor sees this and a doctor says, we have to amputate, is the doctor being cruel or being merciful? Is that being cruel? There's no other choice. If you want this person to live, then this has to happen. Then you have to amputate this part of the body. There's no other way of dealing with it. Says the Alshich, what was happening here by Korach was something very dangerous. It was a spreading disease that could destroy the Jewish people. Because when Korach challenges Moshe, and Korach says to Moshe, Hashem never told you to appoint Aaron. You did it yourself. So, you might think that that's very localized. There's an issue here about Aaron being the Kohen Gadol. Moshe always said it was from Hashem. Korach says, no, it's not from Hashem. And you might think this is a very local issue. And all Moshe Rabbeinu needs to do is to prove that this issue, that when it came here to appointing as brother the Kohen Gadol, that it wasn't me, it was Hashem who told me. You could see it as a very localized problem. But says the Alshich, it's not a localized problem. Because if you challenge the prophecy of Moshe Rabbeinu regarding this, what stops you from challenging Moshe Rabbeinu's prophecy regarding anything that he said? If here you can say Moshe Rabbeinu made it up, then what stops you from saying anything else that he made it up? And actually, you may be familiar with a medrash that says that when Korach first started his rebellion with his 250 followers plus, so what did he do? He says they all took a garment and they dyed the garment tchelis. Now, when we say in Shema, the third paragraph of Shema, and we talk about the parasha of tzitzis, so we read, the Torah says that one of the strings of the tzitzis is supposed to be what color? Blue, a type of blue. It's called tchelis. We've lost this source of tchelis. There are people who actually say we have found it again, and you'll see people who go around with tzitzis with tchelis. It's a very interesting argument that in present day contemporary halacha, can we rely on this that it's tchelis or not? And there are many people. It's not like I can't tell you a majority, but there are many people. Or can say half the Jewish people go one way more than the other way, but there are a lot of people who wear tchelis. Okay, now that's just an aside. So that tchelis is one of the strings, and actually when you read and you study about tzitzis, the tchelis plays a very important role. The tchelis is supposed to be a reminder of Hashem, about the heavens, about the throne of glory of Hashem. It has a very big place in the mitzvah of tzitzis. So the Medrash says that Korach and his following all took a cloak, a talis, a cloak, a covering, four-cornered, and they dyed it completely blue, completely tchelis. And there was no tzitzis on it. So they come to Moshe and they say, Moshe, does this garment need tzitzis? So Moshe said, yeah. And they started laughing. And they started saying, wait a minute. One string is enough of tchelis. And the whole garment's the tchelis, it's not good? Now, we can talk about that argument or not. But this was an argument they made. And what was the purpose of that argument? The purpose of the argument is trying to say, there's something wrong here, Moshe. There's something wrong with what you're teaching us. It's not just about the Kohen Gadol. It's even they're even challenging Moshe about tzitzis. There was another thing it says. They said to Moshe Rabbeinu, if you have a whole room full of Torah scrolls, a whole room full of Torah scrolls, do you need a mezuzah on the wall? Do you need a mezuzah on the doorpost? Moshe says yes. And again they said, that doesn't make sense. One portion of the Torah on the doorpost, that's enough to take care of that's enough to take care of the room. And 100 Torah scrolls that have this in it is not that's not enough to take care of the room. It also needs a mezuzah. It's according to the Medrash, it's very clear that they were not just challenging Moshe specifically about the Kohen Gadol. They were challenging Moshe on everything. It started with the Kohen Gadol. That's where it started. But you see that part of what they did was they went further. They spread further. The other Midrashim talk about how the night before Korach was swallowed up, he went around, he made up a whole story making fun of different laws of the Torah. And again, all, throwing it in that Moshe Rabbeinu was doing this for his own good and for his brother and everything like that. But you see that this was not just localized to this issue, should Aaron be the Kohen Gadol or not. It was, Korach and his followers were spreading even further out in the Torah and challenging what Moshe Rabbeinu said. Moshe Rabbeinu, where do we have the Torah from? Moshe. He went up in Har Sinai, he got the Torah. And interestingly, it's an interesting discussion on its own. The Jewish people saw Moshe get the Torah. How could Korach then challenge that? What's Korach challenging? Apparently Korach is challenging, Moshe Rabbeinu got the Torah, but what he gave over afterwards is his own thing. But the point is that, says the Al-Sheikh, is that Korach is not localized. Korach is a challenge to the entire authenticity of the Torah. Korach says, Moshe Rabbeinu made it up. That means, where did the Torah come from? Did it come from God or did it come from Moshe? Well, according to Korach, a lot of Korach is trying to say, we don't know how much really came from God and how much really came from Moshe. That undermines the Torah. And that was not just something that was Korach and his followers. This was something that was already spreading amongst the Jewish people. This was spiritual gangrene. This was a spiritual disease that was spreading. And if it wasn't going to be stopped, if it wasn't going to be cut down, it would have spread amongst the Jewish people and destroy the Jewish people, because it would have been destroyed to undermine the authenticity of Torah min hashamayim, of Torah from heaven. Because if you challenge Moshe's prophecy, then you challenge the whole precept of Torah from heaven. That's why Moshe said they have to die. Because the only way to stop, if, as Al-Sheikh says, if you're going to ask, couldn't Hashem make some kind of a sign to show that Moshe did actually, by the command of Hashem, appoint Aaron? Yes, it could have happened, says the Al-Sheikh. There's only one problem, though. As long as Korach and his assembly are around, then the questions that they brought up about the authenticity of Moshe's prophecy would always linger. That had to be stopped, because that would have undermined the Torah by the Jewish people, that it's a Torah from heaven, that would have destroyed the Jewish people, and would have basically say the world has no purpose anymore. There's a Medrash that says, listen to this Medrash. The Medrash says that when Moshe was saying, if Hashem makes this creation of a mouth of the earth opening up its mouth and swallowing the people, there's a medrash that says that the sun and the moon came to Hashem, and the sun and the moon said to Hashem, if you do what Moshe Rabbeinu wants, fine. If you don't, we're not going out today. There will be no sun and moon today. We're not going out. We're not going out to do our jobs. What does this mean? What's the meaning behind this? The meaning behind this medrash is that if you don't do what Moshe Rabbeinu wants, then the world has no purpose. Why? Why would the world have no purpose? The answer is because if you don't do what Moshe Rabbeinu wants, that will undermine his authenticity of being the prophet of Hashem, that will undermine the authenticity of Torah coming from heaven, that will undermine Torah, that will mean now the world has no reason to exist anymore. So Moshe Rabbeinu, it was being merciful. It was like being the doctor that amputates the limb in order to stop the spread of the disease that could kill the person. There is a disease here. Korach was a disease. It was a disease of undermining Torah from heaven. And the only way to stop that from spreading was for the Jewish people to see how Korach was miraculously destroyed. So according to the Alshich, what happened here by Korach, the challenge of Korach, is not just a challenge that deals with something very specific about should Aaron be the Kohen Gadol or not. Should other people have the right to be Kohen Gadol? It has to do with, actually, the entire authenticity of the Torah as Torah from heaven. Because if you doubt Moshe, then you're doubting the Torah, that it comes from heaven. And that is the destruction of the Jewish people.
But there is no anything to say he won, they die. This is very if they are not.
Because he knew they were going to die.
Why?
Well, he didn't know. You're right, but this is what he did. This is what Moshe did. Moshe turned to Hashem and said, "If you do this, then this proves I'm right. If you don't do it, then I'm wrong."
It means no. It's my decision.
It's my decision of asking
Hashem
this.
made decision.
No, Moshe asked Hashem to do this, and Moshe and Hashem had to decide, had to agree. Moshe is the one who brought this up, and Hashem had to agree to it. But once Hashem agrees to it, then that shows that Moshe is a true prophet.
He did not say Hashem kill him.
It doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, he went ahead and he said, if you do this, right, which means if you kill them miraculously, that's the proof that I'm right. So Moshe Rabbeinu, I'm not sure what's bothering you.
If not happened,
then Moshe Rabbeinu would have undermined himself. The Moshe Rabbeinu would have undermined himself.
It means he was sure.
Moshe Rabbeinu was sure. He knew he was the prophet of God. At the same time, though, at this juncture, for the Jewish people, where really the question was now, will the Torah last or not? Moshe, you can ask a question, why didn't Moshe just say kill him? I don't know. But Moshe Rabbeinu here, I think in some way Moshe Rabbeinu had to do this because he had to say, look, I'm not just here. I'm not just killing you. I'm not just decreeing. If Moshe Rabbeinu would have said, kill them. So the people would have said, maybe, you told them to kill them. That's why Hashem killed them. No, but Moshe Rabbeinu didn't say kill them. Moshe Rabbeinu said, we're going to leave it up to God. And he's going to decide. And it wasn't Moshe. No one ever claimed Moshe had made the earth open. It was clear it was an act of God. But Moshe doesn't just decree for them to God, pray for them to God, because if he does that, then the people are going to say, oh, you know why it happened? Because you asked Hashem to do it. Because clearly, it's not like they doubt Moshe complete, like Moshe's nothing. But now Moshe says, I'm not the one deciding it. I'm not even asking for it. I'm leaving it up to God. If God does this, that proves I'm right. And if it wouldn't have happened, then Moshe Rabbeinu would have undermined himself because he knew that the whole Torah was being undermined at this point through Korach, if something didn't happen. Okay. Next thing I'd like to focus on is something else here in the parsha, and that is the following. We're going to go back a little bit. Actually, it's not that far back. Okay. This is Perek Zayin, chapter 16, Pasuk Tesvav, verse 15. Now, Korach and his assembly come and complain to Moshe. Moshe says, tomorrow is going to be the test to see who's the Kohen Gadol. After Moshe does that, he talks to Korach. He tries speaking to Korach. And there's no response from Korach. And then Moshe calls for Korach's partners, Dasan and Aviram. And Dasan and Aviram won't come. And the message they send back is, we're not going to come. What are you going to do? You're going to poke at our eyes? You haven't done what you've told us you're going to do? They basically answered back in a very chutzpahdik, insolent way. So what happens then? Pasuk Tesva, verse 15. Vayichar leMoshe ma'od. Now, these words mean that Moshe, let's call it right now, had a negative reaction. Vayomer al Hashem, and he said to Hashem, Al teifen al chasam, do not turn to their gift. I mean, don't turn to their Torah, the Torah they're going to offer. And then Moshe, Moshe says the rest of what he says. Okay? Now, these words, Vayichar leMoshe ma'od. The word Vayichar very often means to be angry. That's very often the word Vayichar means to be angry. Typically it says Vayichar af, but Vayichar typically means angry. And Rashi in his commentary, actually on these words, Vayichar leMoshe ma'od, writes, Nitztair ad leMa'od. These three words, Vayichar leMoshe ma'od, means Moshe became very distressed. When he heard Dasan and Aviram, he became very distressed. Doesn't say he became angry. Because if you're angry, you're angry. You don't say he was very distressed. He was angry. But Rashi doesn't say that. And the question is why? Why is Rashi giving it an interpretation that at first glance, at first look, you wouldn't translate it like that? So the commentaries on Rashi points out that Rashi is bothered by the fact that if Moshe Rabbeinu is angered by what's happening here, by if Moshe Rabbeinu is angry, he should have been angry before. Why is he only angry now after trying to speak to Korach, after trying to speak to Dasan and Aviram? Then it says he's angry. And what's he angry about? He's angry about that they're trying to rebel? Well, that was pretty clear beforehand, wasn't it? Now you may say, well, he only got angry after he tried and it didn't help. But again, there could be, but Rashi says he didn't get angry. This is not anger. This is Moshe was very bothered. Something really got to Moshe here. But it wasn't anger. It was what we call tsar, distress. Moshe is very hurt in some way. But it's not about anger. So the Medrash says like this. The Medrash says that, Medrash says like this. Moshe Rabbeinu called out Dasan and Aviram, Avheim amdu berishon v'nitzku lashivai. They also remained wicked, and they did not respond to him. Moshe talks to Korach. We don't find any response from Korach. Moshe tries to speak to Dasan and Aviram, and they don't respond to him. They basically say, we're not coming, we don't want to talk to you, we don't trust you. So Korach doesn't respond. Dasan and Aviram don't respond. Moshe Rabbeinu wants to talk to them. Moshe Rabbeinu wants to discuss the issue here. He wants to talk it out with them. And they don't respond. Says the Medrash, if a person is having a difference of opinion with someone, and he wants to argue it out, and his friend responds to the argument, then the person feels okay. He feels good. But if the other person, he goes and he tries to make an argument with someone, the other person doesn't even want to talk to him, that causes the person distress. It's very hurtful. It is very hurtful when you want to discuss something with someone, and they basically say, I don't want to talk to you. You're not even worth having a discussion with about this issue. There's a certain menschlichkeit, a certain common decency that says, even though even though you don't agree with someone, but he wants to talk to you, he wants to talk it out with you. Hear what he has to say and respond. If you don't respond, you're hurting him, because that means you're saying that you're not even validating the fact that he has an opinion. You're not even validating the fact you may don't have to agree with him, you may disagree with him, but at least hear him out. Give him a chance to say his part. If you don't give a person that chance to just say their part, you're basically robbing them of a certain value. Even what I'm saying has no value for you to listen to. And that's what distressed Moshe. Moshe wasn't angry here. He wasn't getting angry. But it just bothered him that they don't even want to talk to him. It's not about anger where you're I have to know exactly how to describe it. But anger means, I'm having something at you. It's something directed towards you. Here it's not so much directed towards you. It's just the fact that you don't even want to give me a chance to talk. That is so hurtful. They don't even give me a chance to talk. You don't even have a chance to hear about what I have to say. That is what hurt Moshe here. Now,
because he is feeling he is leader, it's like
not because that's a healer. He wants to talk to them.
But the leader usually should be some respect.
No, it's the way the Medrash is saying it. It's not about Moshe Rabbeinu being the leader. It's about, I want to talk to you. I just want to talk to you. I want to talk this out with you. I want to discuss it with you. And you refuse to discuss it. Anybody would be pained by that. Anybody would be pained. It's not about because, how dare you do this? I'm the leader. The Medrash is saying Moshe Rabbeinu was reacting in a sense like anybody would react. You don't even want to discuss this. You don't even hear what I have to say. You don't even want to respond to what I have to say. What I'm saying isn't even worthy of response of you even responding to it. It's nothing. This is what disturbed Moshe. And again, does that mean that was he hurt because according to the Medrash, it's just about responding. It's just about hearing the person out and respond. Show him a basic level of respect for what he has to say. And they didn't do that. Now, are there times when a person wants to tell you something and argue with you about something that maybe don't respond? Sure, there are times like that. But in this case, right, for them to assume Moshe Rabbeinu was that way was completely wrong. And in essence, what the Medrash is saying is they were saying to Moshe, what you have to say is not even worthy of responding to. If that's your response about somebody who you're arguing with, Moshe Rabbeinu says Hashem. No, it wasn't Hashem. You say it wasn't Hashem. He wants to talk to you about where he's coming from. And you don't even want to respond to it. That means you're saying what you have to say is not even worthy to respond to. That is why, because they didn't agree. Or they didn't want to agree. When that's what happens, that you're just not responding to a person because you're just deciding that what they have to say has no value because you disagree with it, that is a basic lack of menschlichkeit. And that is what hurt Moshe Rabbeinu here. That's what the Medrash is saying. Adam, a person, it's not about being a leader. Adam, a person who wants to discuss, talk out, and hear back from his friend, to have a discussion about what's going on, talk it through. And the friend just basically doesn't want to answer him, shows that what he has to say is not even worth responding to, that's hurtful. And that's what happened here by Moshe. Now, one thing I like to still add to this is the fact that it says, Rashi says that Stayer ad ma'od, which it says, Vayich Moshe ma'od. He was very disturbed, very distressed. What was he so very distressed about? I mean, if you got to, let's say I didn't want to listen to you, and you were distressed about that, and you were really upset about it, really distressed about it. So what would somebody say to you? Okay, I know it bothers you, but take it easy. You don't have to get very disturbed. You have to be so bothered by it. Okay, you want to be disturbed, it hurts, fine. But so very much. Is Moshe Rabbeinu so sensitive that he's so disturbed by it? So if the question is a question, then I like to suggest that maybe what disturbed Moshe here was he's very disturbed by it because Moshe Rabbeinu is sensitive to menschlichkeit. Moshe Rabbeinu is very sensitive to people treating each other properly. When Moshe Rabbeinu sees this kind of lack of common decency, lack of menschlichkeit, when he sees such a thing, it bothers him because he's so sensitive, not about himself. I would like to say Moshe Rabbeinu, if he would have seen this on somebody else, he would have had the same distress, would have bothered him the same amount. Because Moshe is sensitive. When he sees this lack of common decency, it bothers him because it's such a troubling thing to him. It wasn't about his personal distress, his personal hurt. It happened to be that he was hurt here. But what bothered him so much was not so much his personal hurt, as much as the fact that when Moshe Rabbeinu sees such a lack of common decency, such a lack of menschlichkeit, that bothers him to no end. And he would have reacted the same way if he would have seen it happening to somebody else. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful evening.